It's another edition of Time About the Movies, and today we're taking a look at the films of April 5th, 1996. Only 4 movies to look at this week, so let's go ahead and jump on into it. And we'll start off with the biggest new release of the weekend, which really wasn't by that much. I mean, when you look at the actual list here, we'll talk about that in just a little bit. But the biggest new release of the weekend was Richard Gere and Edward Norton in Primal Fear.
On my first day of law school, my professor says, on this day 4, my mother says she loves you. Get a second opinion.
In the game called fame.
You are a master at putting the victim on trial.
A victim in this case, he's my client.
In the business called justice.
First thing I ask a new client is, say you've been saving up for a rainy day? Guess what? It's ready.
The victim in this case is not only the Archbishop, it's also people of Chicago.
Excuse me.
Hello, this is Martinville.
You got the news on by any chance? I think everyone's gonna want this one.
There's one lawyer they love to hate.
Sell the book rights yet? Or you gonna wait a while?
Now tell me, counselor, which one of us is the true headline chaser here?
Unlike you, I was assigned to this case.
You know who I am?
No, sir, don't.
Don't you read the papers?
Richard Gere.
I speak. You do not speak. Your job is just to sit there and look innocent.
I am innocent.
That's it. That's exactly how I want you to look. Remember that? Look in the mirror if you have to.
Even when the headline is murder.
There was someone else in that room.
That was the third person. That's the worst story I've ever heard in my entire life. Now it's our story.
He's the one.
You want to go one-on-one with me? I don't lose.
What's the matter, Molly? Been a while since you rubbed up against a woman with a brain.
Who's the real story?
Ask it.
What about the truth?
Delusion of truth.
Well, you did kill him, right?
No, we didn't.
Don't tell me you think you didn't do it. So how you gonna get him off?
What do you think he's up to?
I honestly don't know.
I saw the tape.
I know what he did to you.
You know what I would do if someone did that to me? I would stab him 78 times.
It's a mistake to stick your thumb in the eyes of the most powerful people in the city.
You're worse than the thugs you represent.
Objection, Your Honor.
Next thing you know, he'll be objecting if we want to bring in a murder weapon.
Well, now the chief thinks it up.
We are dangerous ground here.
Yep.
Here comes any of this, I'll see your ass. Primal Fear.
This is a cover story, right?
So both Primal Fear and the next movie we're going to look at, it was only a $500,000 difference between first place and second place, and Primal Fear just beat it out by that much. So that's just something I wanted to add more to that. But Primal Fear, man, Richard Gere starring in this movie. It's based off of a novel by William Deal. A pretty good cast overall when you look at that trailer again. I mean, not only do you see Richard Gere, you see Edward Norton making his film debut, but Laura Linney, John Mahoney, Alfre Woodard, Frances McDormand. Just a lot of talented names in here. Some of the names that aren't even in this trailer. You see Andre Braugher in there too, but you also see Terry O'Quinn, Maura Tierney. There are some notable names in this movie, and the movie is a pretty interesting legal thriller. It's a very solid film. Richard Gere is having a pretty good time playing this attorney in this, but the real star of the movie is Edward Norton. I mean, he really shines in this movie. I think this is the best comparison to this is what Anthony Hopkins did in Silence of the Lambs. Edward Norton does in Primal Fear. He steals the show. He has one of the strongest performances. He has the strongest performance in the movie, I should say. And there's nothing really more you could say about it. It's a groundbreaking performance, and it shows that, hey, this guy is somebody to watch in the near future. He's going to be a big star, and he really did become a big star. He got nominated for an Oscar for this. He didn't win, unfortunately, but, I mean, his performance in this is really good. And I think the big twist in the movie that really cements this movie as something unique and different, because it actually does something very different that most of these legal thrillers don't really usually do. They kind of fall into similar territories, but this one, I like the twist that they pull in this. I think it works very well here. And overall, the movie is just really good. There's just a lot of great performances all around. The twists and turns this takes are very solid. The mystery aspect of it is very well done. It's a very solid film from this director, Gregory Hoblit, who has had a mostly mixed career as a filmmaker. He's directed some decent films for television, but when it comes to his movies he makes for theaters, they're more mixed than actually good. I think this is actually his strongest film he's made as a filmmaker, because this is the guy who also did Fallen with Denzel Washington, Frequency, which is has an interesting concept, but we'll get to that one eventually. Bruce Willis's Heart's War, which was seen as a major flop at the time. Fracture with Anthony Hopkins and Ryan Gosling. And the last movie he directed was Diane Lane in Untraceable, which was not a very good movie by any means necessary. But this is without a doubt probably his best film as a filmmaker, which really, it definitely shows in here. I think it does work very well. It has a good script to work off of, great performances all around, and a great twist that really puts it over the top over most of these other legal thrillers of this type. I think it's a very solid film, a very good movie. If you haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking it out, especially for Edward Norton's performance in this. Primal Fear, fantastic film. So, with that said, let's move on to the next movie, and that is Martin Lawrence in the comedy A Thin Line Between Love and Hate.
Mel had a way with women. I love him. And his mama had a way with words.
You listen to me. A night full of passion can give you a lifetime of pain.
But he just wouldn't listen.
He set you up.
Until it was too late. Martin Lawrence.
I'm caught up in a real life fatal attraction.
A thin line between love and hate.
You can hit a woman, but I can't. Put my head wide open.
Completely forgot that Martin Lawrence actually directed this movie, and he was also one of the writers on it. That I knew, but yeah, I had no idea he actually directed this. But when you look at this movie, you definitely get a sense that it's trying to be kind of be a mix between Boomerang. I could see definitely the Boomerang part, and even a little bit of Fatal Attraction, that's actually what was the influence of this movie, was both Fatal Attraction and Boomerang, and coincidentally, Martin Lawrence was also in Boomerang as well. But this is a movie that I remember seeing a long time ago, and really, I don't remember too much about it. I thought the movie itself was just okay for what it was, but I really had no desire to watch it again, especially since, like, Boomerang, I think, did it a whole lot better than this movie probably did. But I will say this, though. I do like Martin Lawrence in this movie, and I really think Lynn Whitfield really stands out in this. She's a very good actress who's been in a lot of really good stuff. Most notably, she was in the Josephine Baker Story. That was a big breakthrough role, but she's been in some other good movies, too. She's been in Eve's Bayou. She was in Head of State. She's been on the show Greenleaf on the Oprah Winfrey Network, which I haven't seen, but I've seen little bits and pieces of it. But she's been a very good actress. I really liked her a lot. She's in the movies that I've seen her in, I think she's a very solid actress, and I think she does carry the movie a lot in this case. You also have some other names in here. Regina King's also in here, which I usually really like it. Whatever she's in it, anything. Bobby Brown is in this. Della Reese, Daryl Mitchell, Wendy Raquel Robinson, Faison Love, Tracy Morgan, Tiny Lister, even Michael Bell, the prolific voice actor, has a role in this movie, which I didn't think he did any live action roles, but lo and behold, he's in this movie, and for the most part, I remember coming out of it going, that movie was alright, but it's not something I'd ever want to watch again. And I kind of still stand by that when I'm trying to remember if there's anything about this movie that really left an impact on me. And really, the only thing I could say is Lynn Whitfield probably was the best thing about the film, at least in my personal opinion. But it's been a long time since I've seen this movie. I've largely forgotten about it, and like I said, I don't really remember anything too memorable about it except for Lynn Whitfield. But other than that, that's pretty much all I remember about it. I remember watching it one time. I was just kind of like, this isn't too bad, but it's something I'd probably never watch again. And I hadn't watched it ever since. It's been like, I want to say it's been like 6-7 years since I've seen this movie, and I don't remember too much about it. So that's pretty much all I got to say about that one. That's A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. Moving on to the next movie, and that is Faithful.
20th wedding anniversary, Jack wanted to give Margaret something to express his true feelings.
I was sent here by your husband to kill you.
Does your mother know what you do for a living?
You sound like my strength.
You're in therapy?
I've been in love.
What happened?
It didn't work out.
Why?
I had to kill her father.
Did you ever meet my husband?
I've never seen this man before in my life.
Then how do you know he hired you?
He's a fake!
Faithful.
The way I feel right now, I want to kill both of you for nothing.
Rated R. Now playing.
I guess Paul Mazursky looked at the ref and said, you know what? I can make this movie myself, except I can make it even stupider and nowhere near as funny as that movie is. Even though this is based off of a play by Chaz Palminteri, who actually stars in this as well. And the premise here really isn't anything too unique or different. You have a woman played by Cher who gets this diamond necklace and ends up getting a price on her head, both from her husband and this other guy that comes into play, this hitman. And these two end up having a chemistry together, and then the husband comes in, just creates this incredibly complicated situation. And I think one of the critical reviews for this kind of said it best. This feels like something that was meant intentionally for theater and not for the motion picture medium. And I guess it's kind of true. I mean, I guess this is based on a stage play based on the same name. So I would be surprised if this works better on a stage like this, on a Broadway a theater stage, I should say. But as a movie, I think you needed a better director to actually make this work. Paul Mazursky's kind of been on a downward spiral for much of the 90s. There hasn't been a lot of movies that he's been involved in that have been that great. Not since Enemies: A Love Story, but that was almost 10 years ago at this point. And this was actually the last film he did for theaters, and before he went straight to TV and I think video with some of his last movies. And this is Cher's first starring role in a movie since Mermaids, and that was also almost 10 years ago too. And it was just one of those movies where it's just like the pieces are definitely there for something unique with some of the people that they have involved in here, but it's just not there. It just feels like a film that you needed a better director. You needed somebody else to really come in here and actually make this kind of work better than what it actually ends up becoming. If I'm being honest with you, you probably should have gotten somebody like Paul Monteri to direct it, or even get Robert De Niro to direct it. I mean, he directed Paul Monteri's other film, A Bronx Tale, and that was a great film. But this is a film that I think was just trying way too hard to be kind of like the mainstream equivalent to The Ref, which is a far superior and much more funnier comedy than this is. But this just doesn't work on any level, shape, or form. It's a largely forgettable movie with so much potential to it. Like I said, if you had a better director to put it together, this probably could have worked a lot better than what we get. But for what we get, it just wasn't a very good movie, and it's a film that is largely forgettable, and probably for a good and more than likely for a good reason. So let's go ahead and move on to the last movie that we have here, and that is The Last Supper.
A storm is brewing, my friends. Someone has to stop it.
Every Sunday for about a year now, we've been inviting a guest over for dinner and discussion.
Zach, this is Mark. Oh, hey. Mark, this is Zach.
We're a bunch of damn liberals.
What are you, a Nazi?
Project part of the left. Hitler had the right idea.
Excuse me?
Death is past. We can go on with the rest of our lives.
This is terrible!
What if you kill somebody whose death makes the world a better place? Blue bottle is bad. The green bottle is good.
Everyone, this is Reverend Gerald Hutchins.
Homosexuality is the terrible disease, and AIDS is the cure.
When a woman cries rape, it's usually because she's already consented to sex.
Really?
Yeah, really.
I've never met anyone who's anti-Earth.
We're not even giving people a decent meal anymore.
The fag basher had Chinese.
Have you seen any of these men?
Ready for my wife? All right.
Brother, have you lost your mind serving me this filthy swine?
How about toast? I think we're in the clear. And would you take off those glasses and that homeboy hat? It's a secret.
Fellas wouldn't know a guy could get a decent meal around here, would you?
Yes.
File this under amazing stories, my friends.
All right, then. That is certainly a very interesting movie. How the hell have I never heard of this movie? I guess that pretty much shows you what it's about. I mean, you have these 5 liberal graduate school students who invite a string of extreme conservatives to dinner in order to murder them, and I really want to check this movie out, honestly. I mean, when I usually look at these movies that I've never seen before, I just kind of look at them and go, like, maybe one day I'll definitely check it out, but this is probably the first one that I really want to find out where I can find a copy of this, because this just sounds so insane, so ridiculous, and just the star power that's involved in this movie. I mean, you see it in there. Cameron Diaz, Annabeth Gish, Courtney B. Vance. I mean, that's just the 3 of the 5 students in this, but then you have Jason Alexander, who's an anti-environmentalist, Nora Dunn, Charles Durning, Mark Harmon, Bill Paxton, Ron Perlman. I mean, just like, there's so much star talent in this movie, and I really want to look at this and go, where the hell can I find a copy of this movie so I can actually check it out? Because, man, this looks like it could be something that was ahead of its time, because this is something that could work in today's world, kind of. I think you know what it kind of reminded me of? That movie The Hunt, which was pretty much, I think it was pretty much the same concept, if I'm not mistaken. It was I think it was a film that was almost pretty much the same thing, where you have this battle, but that movie had the battle between the left and the right in that particular film. But that's the definite feel that I get from looking at the trailer for this movie, because wow, that looks like something that could, if it's good, it could be something that's way ahead of its time, but it could be something that's also kind of bad at the same time. But you know what? It's something that I kind of want to see for myself. I mean, it doesn't have it's got decent reviews, but nothing that says that this is something that's like, it's like in the 80s or 90s or something like that. It's at 61%, which means it's just a mostly mixed bag. But I don't know. Maybe it could go either way. But I'm definitely curious to see what this movie is all about. So yeah, if I can ever find a copy of it, I really want to check this movie out. It's a film called The Last Supper, and I kind of want to see it now. And so on that note, we wrap up another edition of Time About the Movies, and next time we meet, we'll have 6 movies to look at. Some more notable movies on this one, including Disney's James and the Giant Peach, based off the Roald Dahl book. We also have Mark Wahlberg and Reese Witherspoon in the thriller Fear. We also have The Kids in the Hall Gang and Brain Candy, Jane Eyre, Getting Away with Murder, and Loaded. So we'll look at those 6 movies next time. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and if you want to see more videos like this, please hit the playlist on the next page, check out the previous episode, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for another episode. So thank you very much for watching, I'll see you next time, and until then, as always, take care.